45 seconds. Members, you've been notified that before we commence our usual business, we have to appoint a chairman of the panel for the remainder of the municipal year. Do we have any nominations, please?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Two.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay. Sorry, they've asked me to second it.
Sorry.
There's no others? Councillor Tipp.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Corporate Affairs and Local Economy Overview and Scrutiny Panel.
Chairman, before we go on, we need to appoint a vice chairman in your place.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, yes, okay. Any nominations for vice chairman then, please?
I'll nominate Alan Sullivan.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan. Sorry, Chairman.
Right, okay. I will now hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and will be available for a minimum of 12 months. Please switch any mobile devices to silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarm rings during the meeting, please use the nearest fire exit and go to the fire assembly point located next to the garages at the end of the car park. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. For the benefit of those watching the meeting online, please would members introduce themselves during the meeting, if not already introduced by name. Next item is apologies. Do we have any apologies, please?
No apologies, Chairman.
Okay. So we'll move on to item 1, minutes. Members, can we please approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of January 2023? Thank you very much. And item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest to make? Thank you very much. Okay. Item 3, public participation. There is no public participation today. So we now move on to item 4, support to business, households and the community, which is on pages 3 to 14 of your recommendations are on page 3. Brian Stevens, would you like to introduce this one?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This report follows on from the previous reports that we presented to panel in 2021 and 22. And it provides a summary of the wide range of support given to businesses, households and communities during 22-23. The report also gives details of the support being administered from April 2023, including the Household Support Fund, where we are currently working with Hampshire County Council on developing our approach to that support. So during 22-23, we have administered a support of approximately £18.5 million through various government funded schemes. These schemes have been undertaken in addition to the day job, with prompt processing, development of in-house e-forms and procedures and processes, always being proactive in our approach to ensure those entitled to the support receive it, including supporting those who are unable to fill out forms online. Some of these schemes were a huge undertaking, including supporting over 53,000 households with £8 million worth of council tax energy rebate. And we are currently supporting households through the 2 energy support schemes, where this week we've already made payments to over 600 households. Section 10 from paragraph 5.5 onwards briefly highlights our response to the cost of living, where you can see we have a council-wide working group bringing officers from different teams together. We've been very proactive in supporting our residents through various strands. This includes supporting our community hubs, our warm spaces scheme, a communications campaign, a detailed dedicated web page, targeted support, and also working with our local partners closely and providing and promoting local support available. The report does have 2 recommendations for consideration. One is to utilise £20,000 of the residual funding of the Council Tax Hardship Fund to support our community hubs. These are providing a great service to our local communities, and this targeted support brings together various organisations, including the Food Larder, Citizens Advice, Step Up Safe Space, as well as ourselves and other local partners. where we can provide advice and support and information to residents. They're well used. I visited the New Milton Hub yesterday, where over 40 households were attending, and this funding is to enable us to continue these hubs whilst we seek some longer term arrangements. We're also looking to support a financial inclusion officer to work with vulnerable households, and again this is in partnership with local groups including the food bank, and these will be targeted support where we'll be working with schools, food bank and other local agencies. Often these cases will be complex and the support will be longer term and more intensive. The second recommendation is to establish a task and finish group to consider and develop a strategic response supporting our communities going forward. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody have questions? Yes.
Councillor Jack Davis, Pennington. Yes, I fully support all that you're doing. It's fantastic work that you're doing, and I know it's a lot of undertaking. My question's on the exceptional housing costs scheme. Looking at it, there's 255 applications. Oh, no, sorry, I'm thinking of the was here 187 applications with 99 awards. I was just wondering, that's about a 50% award rate. Do you know what the kind of why that is? Is because it seems quite low compared to a lot of the other schemes. Was there kind of anybody raising any concerns with the application process for that?
No, there were no concerns with the application process. If someone wasn't able to fill out the online form, we would phone, do a visit or meet them in person and go through the information that is required. So we always had processes in place to support people applying. It was just that we were trying to make sure we were supporting those households where the support was most needed. With a lot of these things, demand is high, funding doesn't go around to everyone, so we have to make sure that any support is targeted and it really supports those households in exceptional hardship.
Okay. The 25,141, was that the total amount then that we had available?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Alvey.
Thank you. Yeah, as Councillor Davis said, very good report. I just had one question under item 7, where you talk about the Ringwood Food Bank and the New Forest Food Bank. And I just wondered where the Blackfield Food Bank fits into this.
Part of the conversation with the financial inclusion officer is working with Waterside Food Bank and the New Forest Basics Bank at Lymington to try and bring that together, which was part of the conversation. The Ringwood area is well covered, the rest of the district isn't. So how can we bring those two food banks and other partners together? So in theory, we'll cover the whole of the forest.
Okay, it's just you don't mention it in this. I mean, it's the Blackfield Food Bank is part of the Trussell Trust. I just wondered why you hadn't mentioned it.
This was just to provide a sort of brief summary without going into too much detail, to be fair, but point taken.
Thank you.
Councillor Tangarani.
Thank you. Obviously, probably very good support. I think that's happened since the pandemic, I take it. And really, my question is when we're going to stop the food banks and this special support, because obviously it's not going to be in perpetuity. Can we do anything to improve the situation for local people? They don't have to depend on it, because obviously we're creating a dependency now in the New Forest that giving people support. What we can do to stop that?
Again, that's
taking lots of the budget, the money. I know is most of the money come from central government or it coming from the Hampshire rather than district budget.
Again, looking at the food bank numbers, what we are trying to do is work with our partners, work with those that are attending the food bank, see if there's other support that we can provide. Again, we're working with the job centre who attended a food larder recently, and some people are moving across from the food bank to the food larder. So they're trying to, where they've got that membership scheme, so they are paying towards the food. Again, that's bringing together other partner agencies to support these groups. So again, it's trying to look longer term, trying to look at the whole picture, find out actually what are the obstacles, what are the issues with particular households, what can we do to support and signpost.
But sorry, I didn't finish. Maybe I didn't make myself clear. How long that support going to continue? Where the money come from? Are we taking money from other services to provide that service?
If the government withdraws support on additional.
The food larders, we're actually meeting them shortly after this meeting to discuss their sort of long-term plans. The idea is with the membership scheme, they're self-financing. So people pay their membership to the food larders. That should, in theory, cover the costs to make them sustainable. So we're having conversations to see, is that achievable? If it's not, are they in the wrong location? Is there other funding streams available? Do we need to look at a take-up campaign? How can we promote and support those?
And Chairman, just the point about whether this is taking money away from other services, it's not. This is all government funded.
It's good from that. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
And Councillor Craig, you haven't spoken yet, so
Councillor Craig can go first. I'll go second.
Can you, Councillor Jack?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to repeat what's already been said in the sense what you've done and what you are doing, both high volume beyond the normal work, complex in terms of who, where, what and how much. And I'm equally pleased to see that you are actually going to, for example, the Nederman Centre, as you did yesterday in New Milton. I think a lot of support for all these areas essential. I would hope the government continue to support and finance. If we watch the BBC, we see enough of the, oh, it's awful, and look at inflation rising by a huge amount, well, 0.3%. So what we need to do is ensure that we give support to the right people. And I think the big plus here is the fact that you are going out and meeting these people and the organisations. And I think that is the way to go. So thank you for that, Ron.
Councillor Davies, you wanted another go?
Yes, it was just to say about, obviously this is, as I was saying, fantastic, and it still is very short term because obviously it relies on short term funding and the symptoms of poverty and deprivation. In terms of the long term impacts of poverty and deprivation and how we're tackling the causes of that, are we going to look at, as part of the and that probably task of this group or something like that, the long term deprivation? Because obviously there are, in these areas, Pennington and New Milton are good examples, where you have got pockets of very severe deprivation. Is that something that's on your radar?
I think part of the task and finish would be looking at exactly that. So we have the external cost of living support groups that's looking at what the actions and they're looking at bringing that in with the task and finish group as well. Like you say, you can do some sticking plaster short-term fixes, but it's the long-term solutions and support in place that's really needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobart.
I just wanted to say that I was very pleased that 20,000 has been given to continue with the community hubs. I think the wonderful thing about the community hubs is not only is it a safe place for people to go to keep warm, have a cup of tea, but also they can gather information on how to find work. They can talk to people about gaining qualifications, how you get the funding, how you get the funding for that. And then combined with our help for small businesses, which actually keeps businesses going through difficult times. It provides employment or guides people into finding employment, which then in turn will help them stop having to stop using the food banks, because nobody wants to be using the food bank. And it's there by the grace of God go I. But the wonderful thing about the work that you have done is that you have pulled in people from different areas and everybody has worked together. So you have safe places where people can gain information, and information is the key to getting out, you know, to finding work, whatever that work may be. So I think that's money very well spent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor O'Sullivan.
I just want to note that you've had this, lots of these grant things have come in the last couple of years, and how you as your department managed to cope with this, with the staffing that you have, and how you're finding that out.
My hair's receding and going grey, if that's an indication.
Yes.
But yeah, to be fair, it is a challenge. You have to manage the day job. It's about prioritising, allocating resources. Luckily, we've got a great team. We're extremely committed to get all these schemes in place. As you said, some of them are quite complex. Always managed to administer them promptly and accurately as well. So it has been a big ask on the team, and we've done a great job to manage requirements.
Just a little thing on the additional relief fund. You said a small number of businesses have returned their relief.
It's a good question. Some of them decided that they didn't need the grant funding. Maybe they had performed better than they thought and gave the money back. The disappointment is we can't redistribute that funding. So it's money we would have to give back to the government because they gave it to us, returned it after the deadline. We did write to them 2 times to explain that as well. So that's the disappointing aspect. But yeah, mainly businesses thought we don't actually need the funding now, we'll return it.
Those sound to be very, very generous businesses. They should be thanked. Very, very generous. And I think somebody else had a question. Councillor Alfie, is it?
Yeah, it was more picking up a point that Councillor Kangarani made. As far as I'm aware, the district council does not support the food banks. To my knowledge, the Blackfield Food Bank, which has been running, I would guess, for 20 years, I don't believe has ever had support from the district council. Supported by local charities and by individuals. So, you know, I mean, Ryan may correct me, but I don't believe there's any funding from the district council goes into the food banks.
We have provided capital grant funding for the New Forest Basic Bank for their new premises a couple of years ago. That was quite substantial, but ongoing we haven't provided. So we did provide some with the cost of living with COVID. We had some grant funding from the Department for Health, and we used that funding to support food banks during that time. We haven't provided any direct support this year, but the support we do provide is their advice, networking, promotion, working with them on various other schemes.
Yeah, okay, I'm just making the point that the food banks were going before all this COVID and before these grants, and no doubt will continue afterwards.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? You can see from the report, you know, how extensive this is. 18.5 million, that's an extraordinary sum of money, and I don't think the government can possibly keep going at that rate, so we will get back to normality. Okay, well, thank you very much, Ryan, and so now we move on to...
Chairman, we just agree to recommendations.
Oh, recommendations, yes, thank you very much. I forgot about that. Yes, recommendations on page 3. So, number 1.1, continue to work with our partners to identify emerging issues and explore further opportunities for joint working to support our communities and most vulnerable residents across the district. 1.2, to recommend the use of £20,000 from residual council tax hardship fund to work with partners and support the community hubs and a financial inclusion officer. And 1.3, to note the intent to establish a task and finish group to report back to the Community Partnership and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Panel on the development of our strategic responses to support our communities. We all agree with that?
Agree.
Thank you very much. So that's that one then. Thank you. Right, so we now move on to item 5, ICT update. And we've got 2 officers today, Rich Bird and Kim Gray, to lead us on this one.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this update today on ICT, myself and Kim. So we were taking you through today a look back at the last 12 months, a busy 12 months for ICT, including a summary of what we've achieved and a look at the financials. We'll also be looking ahead to the next 12 months and what the ICT work programme looks like, including some specific operational and delivery updates. So it's been another busy year team. First slide, just a reminder that the new digital strategy came into play last year, was improved. On the screen there is a reminder of some of the key aims of that strategy, including our commitment financially to deliver that. But in terms of looking back at the highlights of the last 12 months, I'm just going to start with that.
Thank you. So yeah, Rich confirmed we had a busy but very good 12 months, lots of good things to report on. Under the staffing side, we completed our restructure of the service, which sees us better organised to deliver that strategy and council as a whole moving forward. We've been in that structure since November and it's working really well. We've had a really positive response to that, which is great. We've got our new Assistant Director, Becky Drummond, and we look forward to working with her moving forward. We currently have 3 vacancies within the service at the moment that we have reviewed to ensure that we definitely do require those moving forward, and we do. So we're going through that recruitment process currently. And as a team, we've gained lots of certifications ranging from ICT service management, project management, and varying Microsoft certifications as well. Training and learning and development is a really, really important part of what we do, and we do like to ensure that we are getting that time and space within our diaries to keep on with that to better support. Under the strategy side, Rich has already touched on the strategy that was approved and that we're working towards. We've also put together our annual business plan that's out for approval at the moment. So that's our work programme for the upcoming year that incorporates major projects, operational activities that we need to ensure that we're completing day to day to ensure that our environment is kept available, stable and secure so we can continue to use it day to day. And it also includes some of our own service improvements that we feel will add value as our service to deliver. Under the operational side of things, we've had a really positive response to our ICT staff survey. A couple of items in there for us to address and move forward, but largely, again, a really, really positive response. We've had sustained business as usual, so regularly meeting our key performance indicators and our internal service level agreements. Team are operating at capacity, so it's really important that we do appoint into those vacancies that we are doing at the moment. And we've also maintained compliance with the all-important security application. So we went through the PSN reauthorisation in December, so that was successful. Just completed our reauthorisation for Cyber Essentials, and we're now working towards our Cyber Essentials Plus reauthorisation at the moment. So we're doing that now and hope to have that. And under the delivery side of things, some major projects delivered, so including our HVSN 2.1 migration, which saw us decouple from Hampshire County Council and replace our connectivity, so our network connectivity, our internet service provision, and some security services as well. We've rolled out SharePoint for all of our documents and records. We've introduced single sign-on for iTrent, so hopefully that's been a really positive. We've been able to remove a password for everybody, which is good. It can only be a good thing, and we will continue. And some of those projects will continue that we've been working into 2023, 24 due to the size and the. This next slide is just a visual representation, really, of the projects that we've delivered or are continuing to deliver against the 3 goals in the strategy. So I will just take you through a couple of examples of each. So under the robust, reliable systems and support that underpin our service delivery, we've already talked about the HVSN 2.1 replacement for our connectivity. To support that one, we've also just been through a procurement process to select a partner to support us in our journey to migrate our infrastructure into Microsoft Azure. To the second goal, the contemporary working practices achieved through the use of technology, all the good things like migrating from Meridio to SharePoint, migrating from Skype to Teams telephony, single sign-on piece, and some new hosted solutions. So where we used to have some applications on premise, they're now out being hosted, and a good example there is Chipside for our team. Third one there, the digital services that reduce operational costs and increase resident and customer satisfaction. Payment services platforms have been updated, so our chip and PIN devices out of the information offices, our online telephone payment services. We've still got work to do, but the regulatory services project, operations project that's up and coming, and the council chamber.
Looking at the financial side of the work programme, this slide on the screen at the moment shows the latest budgets for each project. Some of those budgets have rolled over from previous years. In terms of the actuals and commitments and remaining budgets, I'll pick out a couple of highlights. So particularly the council chamber AV solution. As of 3:30 yesterday, I'm pleased to report that project is going extremely well. It was on target to finish in due course. In terms of the remaining budget there, that's a timing issue there. So that's about invoicing coming in at certain times, but the is pretty much there. So that the budget will be spent. We've got some other large items on there in terms of the operations project and intranet project, which haven't had any spend yet. They'll be rolling over into next year. They've just finished their procurement stages project. In terms of that rollover column, where it says no there, that means the work's been completed. The project is all finished. So looking okay. And as I said, some of those larger projects, some of that spend will come in due course.
Sorry, whilst you're on that particular page, then can I ask about, you've got the website customer portal and you've spent 300 quid on the website. It's not rolling over to next year.
So that's going to be potentially a new project. I'll show on the work program slide shortly. So we're going to look at upgrading the website possibly to bring a my account type feature. So I'll show that on the next slide if that's okay. So on the next slide, this is what the work program looks like for the next year. It's a busy program, it's an ambitious program, but it's got lots of good benefits and lots of good things. So
Rich, it's not moved on, Rich.
it's not. Oh, yeah.
Do you know anyone in IT?
Yeah. There we go. Good old click twice. So now it's on the screen. It's an ambitious program with lots of good things on there, lots of benefits. So we will have to remain agile as the year goes by, align our resources and prioritise accordingly. But some highlights there. I've already mentioned the council chamber looking to have that at the start of April. Our HBSN migration, just a couple of final tasks to finish off on that one. Last week, the locator system went live, housing management system. So a few good projects starting to reach the end of their workload. Now moving on to the early stages of the intranet project, as well as our learning management system. Exciting. And the operations project, that's another large project ongoing, has just reached its contract award stage where we're starting to work with the supplier now and start to build detailed
I
requirements.
noticed it's in colour. Should you explain what the colours mean?
Sure, no problem. So the housing management system was amber just because there was a timing issue there, but I'm pleased to say that the team worked really hard and managed to deliver it on the revised schedule. The red on the regulatory services project is our biggest risk in terms of that project. It's got a few challenges, so to speak, mainly with the supplier and their capability to deliver. Again, the team are working extremely hard there to try and keep that moving. Some options moving, some options available to try and speed that up. Thank you, Chairman. In terms of the 625 spend, we've got the original budgets against some of those projects for this year. So that includes the website portal platform upgrade that's referenced in the My Account. Single sign-on, as Kim said, will continue. We'll try and make it easier for everybody to log into some of our applications. And we'll also be hopefully looking at a new CRM system to help manage our interaction with our residents. I've got some updates specifically in the operational update. So, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. So you'll notice a key theme for each of the key areas under the operations team, all around enhanced reporting. So we are looking to ensure that we continue all of our good reporting, that data collection, using all of the data that we've got to provide us insights, ensure that we know what we're doing, we're meeting our KPIs and our targets, but also looking to continuously improve. So each area, the service desk, the infrastructure and security and solutions team have got that target to look at this year. Specifically in service desk, we are looking at a new service management tool, so our ICT portal, and the service desk team will work alongside myself to review and refine the service management processes that we've got in place to sort of govern what we do as a service to ensure that they are up to date, fit for purpose and in line with practice. Our infrastructure team are going to be heavily focused on that Microsoft Azure migration, and they're also going to be looking at Windows 11 for our user devices. Security and solutions team will be very much concentrating on maintaining those accreditations to the compliance standards and reviewing and refining the security and solutions processes to ensure that we are, again, up to date with the latest guidance and we retain the right balance in terms of the level of security and versus the customer. Over to you, Rich, to go through the details.
Kim, in terms of our data, we have lots of good data around the council that we can use to make more informed decisions. So we're working on a data strategy, how we can bring some of that data together, including some new reporting features. In terms of development, we're very keen to increase our Microsoft 365 adoption. So there's many more applications we can make use of to supplement Teams and SharePoint. Start to look into some low-code development potentially to help us with some custom applications. Specifically on the delivery front, we're looking at some new reporting based on Power BI, setting up a technical design authority to bring some assurance to some of our projects in terms of their technical aspects and security. There are opportunities to work with some of our partners, which we're doing already for our data strategy. So we are working with Microsoft and some already, and making sure as well in terms of our existing supplier contracts, we're getting the very best out of those contracts, both in terms of the service they provide and financially. So lots happening again over the next 12 months. Just like to place on record a big thank you on behalf of me and Kim for everybody in the ICT team for what they've done and continue to do. They're working really hard for us. In terms of recommendations today, this panel chairman, it's noting the contents of the report and hopefully support proposed digital strategy funding moving forward.
Thank you both very much. Members, are any questions for our officers? Councillor Kangaroo.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm slightly disappointed because the presentation was very cryptic and lots of acronyms, and the action you're taking, we don't know what the consequences are. Obviously, maybe time limited, but obviously expanding on changing something to something else, what would the consequence? I didn't get that. That's something. In terms of security, obviously, we cannot log into the New Forest devices we have got, browsing our personal emails. Do we have an incident that has caused a problem that we are barred from using the device to log in?
We have previously, so we have had issues where people have logged into their email account, and obviously we spend a lot of money protecting our environment, and as soon as you log into a personal email account that we have no jurisdiction over the data that comes in, anything that's introduced, obviously that's the risk. And there's also the data loss prevention as well. You know, we have no sight of what information is then being passed back through those personal emails. So that's the stance at the moment.
That equally apply to downloading from Google search or whatever as well, or not?
Not for downloading, because obviously we are then able to, we've got the tools in place to support that. So that's a different thing. That's, you know, introducing something different.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Any other points? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, on the council chamber AV, when are you expecting that to be completed? As in, I think it's quite close to completion now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I'm pleased to say Chris Hawes and the team's done a great job there. So UAT, that's testing for, is starting early next week. Handover should hopefully be 5th of April, and then we've got the supply lined up for priority support, I believe, on the 12th of April for the first live chamber.
I think it will be the first one, and they will be available throughout that meeting, just in case there are any glitches.
Councillor Sullivan.
Carry on from my last question. I'm seeing now you've got the website on there, but you're not talking about it till November?
Yes, so colleagues are working on customer strategy and everything, so that's going to link heavily with that. So just in timing wise, plus with all the other projects going on that we need to finish off, operations, RS. So while we're talking about it now, it's the planning that will come.
Because it's been going on for years.
Keen to get it
going.
going.
A task and finish group for years going back. Doesn't seem to be getting much more advancement at the moment.
Can I just stop over? I mean, we did make quite significant changes to the website. Yeah.
So it just needs that further, otherwise it will drop back again. Can I ask you?
Yes,
another question. You send out these training things. There we go. Is there going to be a better quality one? The questions were a bit simple.
Oh, come on, I like to pass you.
If you get them
It seems
wrong,
a
it really
bit-
upsets them.
It just seems a bit basic, yeah.
So obviously that's the project that Rich mentioned, our learning management system, that's being reviewed at the moment. So
Please don't make them too difficult.
No.
And please don't call them things. There's the key word.
Councillor Kangaroo.
Microsoft accreditation.
Come back on this.
Yes, yeah. I just want to ask.
obviously some of the services we outsource to running of it. And decision made to have recruit people to the ITC ourselves within the group. Are we forecasting that change recent time in the future, or still dependent to use it the internal team running ITC? Why we don't outsource it? Might be cheaper.
Nothing on our radar. Alan, anything?
Yeah,
on
I think essentially at the moment we've got a tried and tested model. You know, we've built ourselves a really solid ICT team. I think we've got Kim and Rich now at the helm as a joint act, and I think doing really well. I think we do use third parties to support us where we need them, so to bring in that third party expertise. But I think at the moment with the team we've got, with the restructure we've got, that's the team and the structure that we've got to take us forward for the next few years at least.
Okay, so yeah. Just one more question. Obviously, the ITC has been very successful and it's done very well for the internal operation. Would you think the customers are satisfied with what we have done so far? I mean, in terms of new website, accessing information, gathering data about the local people, their needs and requirements. Is that actually the background running still, or concentrating on the technical issue only?
If we can touch on the resident insight survey, obviously we had some really positive feedback and information there, didn't we? And I think that would have involved a lot of sort of frontline service delivery, but also how customers were interacting with us digitally. Okay. And I think our results there, as we've seen, were extremely positive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Who else was? Oh, Councillor Alvey, yes.
Yeah, and perhaps this is going to come up with the portfolios and members' report. But I'd just like some clarification on the actual staffing structure. I mean, with due respect to our two here, is this the final arrangement, or are we replacing?
This is our final arrangement. This is how we're going to.
This is how we're going to go forward.
Assistant director. For the foreseeable we have an assistant director that's taken on the role of the management oversee, but our two technical heads of service are sat before you, and they've split that reasonably well. Kim gets all the work, you get all the praise.
Absolutely.
So that is how it's set, and it's working extremely well. And so I don't have any plans to change.
Thanks very much.
Very good. Is that everybody done then? Yes, well, it's a huge project, ICT, and it goes on, and I don't pretend to know all about it, but I'm very confident that we've got the right people to take us forward. So thank you for that. Thank you, Rich and Kim. Right, so they've got to note that report, so hope it's all been noted. And on to item 7.
Sorry,
6, sorry. Yeah, item 6. Sorry. Staff suggestion scheme update. We have Helena Haylet's here.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Just a short presentation for you today on the staff suggestion scheme, just to give you an overview of what we've been doing in the last year. So you may remember I came to a similar meeting 12 months ago and gave you an update on what we've done last year. So this is what we've done since then. So just to remind you, we launched this in March 2021, and we promote this through service managers, through their team meetings, and we try and encourage them to have staff suggestion scheme as a standing item on their agenda. We do regular articles on ForestNet to promote it. We promote it through the employee forum as well. We've had regular staff communication messages to sort of remind people that it's there as well. So lots of promotion, and this is how it appears if you went into ForestNet to have a look at the suggestion scheme. This is the information that we share with the staff to try and encourage them to put ideas forward. So since last March, we've had 15 suggestions that have come through. Now, this is only corporate suggestions. So if people raise something through their own team meeting, which just affects their own area, then that's dealt with on an individual service basis. So this time round, you'll see I've got a list of them for you to look at.
when we launched the scheme, the idea was it would look at efficiency savings. But as we noted last year, a lot of the ideas that are coming through are perhaps more about staff welfare, just ideas, what might make us a bit more of an employer of choice moving forward, rather than linked to an efficiency saving. So hopefully that's not too small for you to see. One idea was to put the staff directory on ForestNet. So we had a look at that, and I think what we are content with is when the new intranet it comes forward, there will be a bit more of a way to make that available to people. And we put that ICT working to ensure the search facility, both in Outlook and in Teams, gives accurate information. So we are looking at that, and I think there are ways now where you can go into your Outlook and see who reports to who, for example. We had electric vehicle charging points to be installed at Appletree Court. EMT had a look at that, and we felt that would be part of the UK Project Shared Prosperity Fund. It's quite a mouthful. So we're picking it up through that channel. Interestingly, somebody thought that performance reviews should only be done on request and not automatically every year. Not my idea, honestly. Anyway, so EMT had a little discussion over that, but actually no, we feel that is an integral part of performance management, and all employees should have one formal appraisal every year. Excuse me, and that should be supplemented by perhaps a monthly one-to-one, maybe every other month one-to-one, but definitely one formal appraisal every year. So the current process will continue. Somebody suggested that we should have volunteer days in addition to annual leave. Again, we had a discussion at EMT, but actually we felt that there's enough flexibility now within people's current working arrangements that if they want to go off and do some volunteering for a particular charity, then actually we would be flexible enough to be able to support them to do that, but without giving them additional leave to do it. Similar sort of strain, staff should to attend a community day with the National Park Authority. And again, we are keen to support our staff if they want to do some sort of partnership arrangement with the National Park. We'd be happy to support them, but we're not running, singular community days to facilitate that. We did rename outlying offices on email. So we used to have an email address book, and I can't remember what the internal one was, but there was an outlying address on email. And actually, when we looked at that, it was so rare that we would use that as an address in its own right without it going to staff at Appletree Court as well, that actually we thought as an aim to be a bit more inclusive, actually we just cover all staff. So that's a change that's already been made. Somebody said we should have staff recognition awards, such as Employee of the Year or Manager of the Year. Now, actually, we've had a look at that, and we do want to recognise when people do well, but we're also going to pick that up now because a similar thing has come up through the staff survey that we ran at the end of last year. So when we feed back to staff about that, we will be picking those things up. I think it's quite a difficult scheme to put forward because you want it to be fair and you want it to be consistent. And if you're not careful, you get the same people, and this, not everybody perhaps works in a role where it's easy to make a particular difference to what's being delivered by the council. So we just need to make sure we've got a really good framework of how that can work. And there was an idea that the staff survey should include a section on staff benefits, and actually we did that this year. We're just collating all that information so we can have a look at what people actually value now that we've introduced, and actually what we can put forward in the future. And you may know that at the end of last year, we increased what we could offer to staff anyway. So we partnered with ABCY, so we can now offer people additional voluntary contributions in terms of their pension. And we also have introduced a scheme where people can sign up to it. It's got things like a cycle to work scheme involved in it, and you can get discounts on certain retailers as well. So that's something that we've introduced separately this year. We did have an idea. Somebody asked if we would be prepared to run a lunchtime session led by a counsellor, and that's not as in a member counsellor, to look at dealing with ageing parents and loss. This is quite a difficult one, but what we've done with that particular individual is we have referred them back to our employee support line and said to them if they need that on an individual basis, then that's probably best done there rather than done in an open forum, because I think there were thoughts that perhaps other people might not want to share that level of detail or feeling in more of an open forum. Provision of a vending machine at Appletree Court for drinks and or snacks. Several reasons why EMT were quite keen not to take that forward at this point in time. There was a little bit about actually it's quite good for staff to take a break, go for a little bit of a walk at lunchtime, get a breath of fresh air, look after their mental health and well-being by getting away from the screen while staying sat at a desk. And actually there was also the bit about supporting local businesses. So actually if staff wanted to go and get a cup of coffee or a sandwich or something and support the Lyndhurst businesses, we were more than happy to. And the last one, I think, creating a new post to provide free gardening for disabled and vulnerable persons. And that went as far as to say a bulky collection for those individuals as well. But actually, when we discussed that at EMT, it was felt that we've got quite a lot of charities that actually already provide that facility, and it might just be that the individual that put this forward wasn't aware of those, so we have gone back and made them more aware. And then the last slide in terms of the ideas received, making attending the menopause brief bite mandatory for all managers at all levels. That actually came out from an individual who came on one of the menopause brief bite sessions that I ran, who enjoyed it and found it quite informative and felt it would be useful for all managers around the authority to actually have a bit more detail about that. So we're going to look at that when we introduce the learning management system that we spoke about earlier. And we've got better reporting facilities, and we've got an increase in the e-learning modules that are also available through that system. We'll have a look at how we can look at equalities, menopause, all sorts of bits and pieces that we sort of dabble in a little bit now, bringing that all together and making it a much more comprehensive package for people. Reinstate the covered cycle parking by the south wing. If we go back a few years now, before COVID, we used to have a small shelter over by the south wing for cycles. I think that was removed probably when COVID came. So we still have a facility, but it's out here by the north wing, although I would be first to say it needs a little bit of a update and a refresh. So I do know that facilities have that on their work programmes. That will be done quite shortly. And hopefully in time for the better weather coming, when we might have more staff that want to cycle to work. NFDC to sign up for the Lyndhurst Scarecrow Trail in 2023. Some of you may have seen the odd scarecrow in the high street last year. Businesses, I'm not quite sure what it's all about, but businesses seem to do that. It is a bit of a touristy attraction for people then. So we felt we'd be happy to do it, but it is in your own time, and you can't build the scarecrow in work's time. And
Can you make it look like the leader?
I didn't say that. Directory of staff skill set on ForestNet. And again, I think that's something we're going to look as we roll out Teams a bit further, whether that facility will then be available. We can't do it through iTrent because, of course, a lot of the data on iTrent is personal and confidential, so we can't give people a link to that. But it might be something that we are able to allow staff to self-declare on Teams. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much indeed, Elaine. And obviously we've got a lot of interesting things coming forward. Members have any questions? Councillor Davies and then Councillor Alfie.
Vending machine one.
Yeah.
Do you have any staff with mobility issues?
Not that wouldn't be able to move around the building.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
To me, like, this comes from obviously someone who has mobility issues. If I was a member of staff here, I'd like to know that should I need it, there would be something within the building for.
Okay, yeah, so what we've got little kitchen facilities dotted around the building, and we still do have the work cafe that people can use. So they've got fridge facilities. So if they brought their own lunch, for example, and they wanted to keep it in the fridge, keep it fresh, that facility is there. And we've got the hot water machines as well. So if people want to make their own tea and coffee, as long as they bring their own tea and coffee in, the hot water is there for them to make a drink. But it's not a vending machine as such.
Councillor Alfie?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a question on this bulky collection service where you say you could have an article in the next Home Talk magazine. I'd like to think we could also put a link on the website for this business. A lot of people do not get the Home Talk magazine.
Okay.
I mean, that is purely, well, I'm not good, but anyway, I certainly don't get the Home Talk magazine.
I think that's just for our tenants, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We want to reach our residents as well as our.
Good point. Good point. Who else would? Councillor Sullivan?
It's just the fact that you've given us this presentation with all these results to these questions. Does that get conveyed to all staff? That would encourage them to come forward with more ideas.
Yes, it does. We've got a page on ForestNet under the staff suggestion scheme, and actually now everyone that's been to EMT, it's got a brief description of what was put forward and then the response from EMT, so people can look at what's been put forward.
Thank you. Sounds like a morning of well dones, but essentially well done on this, because I know with staff suggestion schemes, you'd be amazed, and I can't repeat what I've seen in boxes because of the ladies present, but essentially they can be somewhat gratuitous from the staff perspective.
Sure, we'll edit out anything like that, wouldn't we?
Well, no, I'll keep it. I will stop. I'll start talking in a foreign language in a minute, which I won't do. Okay. But essentially, I know that they have a mixed value. Some are good, some not so good. The fact you've had 15 responses, the fact that you've actually acted upon, and as Alan said, the key thing is to feed back, always to feed back, whether it's HR, whether it's the team manager, doesn't matter, but provided the individual thinks, well, I'm wasting my time putting this in here, somebody's actually read it, thought about it and done something with it. I think how you maintain it is the challenge, big time, because you're not saying, well, if your suggestion is adopted, here's 500 quid or have a holiday abroad or whatever it may be, being silly, but everybody's doing it for the corporate value. And that is the challenge, to maintain that corporate value as it moves forward, and it will change in itself, as we know, and to make sure that each individual feels engaged. If you can do that, good time, you know, in HR terms, if you can do that. But if you can do that and move forward with it, things like the corporate changes that we're going to be going through, if everybody understands, and I thought the write-up about our new director was very good. Bit disappointed he'd worked in Solihull. I mean, dear group. But essentially, it's that kind of feedback and flow of information to everybody that they can say, well, who is this guy? And they can read and see what he's been doing. therefore, mentally, the impact of him walking in the door won't be, oh, good. It's more to be with, right, welcoming, let's get him working with, let's move forward.
Councillor Changarani, please.
Yes, I support the annual appraisal. I think I have received and given in the past myself, and I think it's got a useful tool to use. I'm not sure what the outcome would be, because obviously the appraisal can be very wishy-washy, or it can be very, very productive in terms of ideas, rewards. Could you tell me what the outcome of the appraisal would be for individuals?
So for most individuals, what we're looking for is for them to be performing well. If they are considered to be exceptional, then there is the ability, depending where they are within the salary scale, for them to get an additional increment, or potentially to go into one of our performance points that we introduced last year as part of the new pay structure. So that discussion between the manager and the employee is really key. And also they need to talk about training and development moving forward, you know, making sure we get the best from our staff, like Kim was saying about the training for the ICT team. All of the training that people need, it needs to be brought together, and then we can look at how we can fund that moving forward. So there's lots of discussions that should happen at an appraisal, which I think in our normal everyday, everybody's busy, and so it's really important that they set time aside to have that dedicated conversation. On the other side of that, if we've got people that are not performing, we should also be identifying those as well, in order that we can give them the right support to try and get them to a place where they are performing well. So it's key as far as I'm concerned.
How do you make sure the appraisal done within certain standards? Because from my past experience, some managed did very good job and some didn't. And would that sort of outcome would be reviewed by another body to see whether this process is doing well? Because, you know, the managers, they're all human beings, like and dislike is always part of it.
Yes.
And then just want to make sure that process is done at least to a minimum standard and reviewed accordingly.
I agree. I think it's fair to say we've got managers at different levels when it comes to looking after their staff, you know, and that comes out sometimes in the appraisals. But what I can say is if people are unhappy with their appraisal, then they can come to HR, and we can, you know, sort of have a look at how that's happened, what the comments are. What we have in our appraisal now, which I do really like, is before employees go into their appraisal, they have to, if you like, score themselves in terms of how they feel they're performing against a certain set of sentences. And then when they go into the appraisal, the manager also scores them. And then the idea is where they're different, they have that conversation and discuss why those scores are different. And it really does make people have that conversation and identify where those differences are.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other points, sir?
If I may, sorry to come back again, but personally in favour of annual performance reviews, this idea of we'll leave it for another 6 months and do it then. Bring it back to the corporate environment. What you're looking at is trying to get to a level of performance from everybody to identify the simplistically, the training needs that they may have through the review periods. But it's key, again, that they have that regular annual review, if that's the case, sometimes 6 monthly I've seen as well. And that whatever the needs assessed and needs raised, so the difference between what they think they're doing and what the manager feels they're doing, how do you compromise with that? How do you deal with it? How do you bring the two closer together? And that, again, is HR through the conversation. And as you say, I was thinking that Bank of England thing, lender of the last resort. But essentially, they come to HR because they would be the ones that should be able to ID and help the managers. I'm assuming the management, as they progress into management, get training on performance review. It's not something, it's not something where you just wander in and do it.
No. So we do offer brief bite sessions for managers to come along, and we'll talk to them about how they should be doing those appraisals. But again, I think as part of the learning management system, I'm hopeful that there will be more e-learning modules available for staff on more generic management skills. But unfortunately, with every e-learning module, it's not tailored to NFDC. So I think there will always be a place for us to run our own sessions to make sure people know about our own systems, our own measures and things that we have in place.
Thank you very much. Well, getting back to the main point, the staff suggestion scheme, are there any more questions on that particular topic? No? Okay, well, you're asked to note this, so I hope everybody's noted all the suggestions there. Thank you, Helena. Now we move on to portfolio holder reports, item 7, and the performance dashboards. And I'm prepared for this. I've brought my magnifying glass. And I've been reading it very carefully. I hope you have too. But I really hope that it's going to be bigger print in future. Anyway. That's a tip if you have it on the lap. I know you can. Yeah. But this is much smaller and neater.
Might be a bit much for it.
And I do like to see my things in print. But yes, I take your point. You could.
Thank you very much for that, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Right. So who's going to go first? Is it in the order I've got here?
Councillor Cleary first. Yes.
Councillor Cleary first.
Good morning, everyone. For the benefit of those watching on YouTube, I'm Councillor Jill Cleary, leader of the council. Right. I'm delighted to be able to outline progress across my portfolio, including initiatives crucial to the future of the district, such as the Solent Freeport, and projects that move us forward as an organisation. You will see from the dashboard that the Waterside Steering Group has been restarted, and as I chair, I have been pleased with both the attendance at these meetings and focus on collaboration to bring together and communicate the next steps in delivering the vision for the Waterside. Through the HR committee, we've also been hearing about the work underway to support being an employer of choice. The HR team are working on a range of initiatives to improve our recruitment processes and aim to fill more vacancies first time. We have had a slight improvement in the figure presented here to 74% vacancies filled first time, so I know we are on the right path. We can now see above target delivery on satisfaction ratings, and I am satisfied that we are managing the risks outlined appropriately. And finally, if I can, note the delivery priority around democratic engagement and the preparations underway for the May 2023 district and parish elections. Whilst the new voter ID requirements coming on top of the boundary review makes for a challenging context, we have strong governance with the Chief Executive chairing fortnightly project meetings and are seeing a cross-council commitment to deliver a successful polling day and count. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Jack Davis, yes.
On the performance indicators, I'm assuming on the leaders portfolio, correct? It's not entirely correct. So in terms of the residents' email, is that yours?
Yeah.
In terms of residents' email and on the vacancies filled first time, it's on the residents' email, it's 0.03% increase, which is what, 1 or 2 people. And on the vacancies filled first time, it's 1%. To me, in my mind, that's just stagnant. Now, is it a case of the target's unrealistic, or is it a case that we need to do more to improve those KPIs?
Kate, I'm going to hand over to you on that one.
I think they're quite different. So I think vacancies filled first time, we are gradually improving with a lot of effort. I think it's something that we hope will keep seeing an increase, a step-by-step increase. In terms, I haven't got the actual numbers, but we have, the HR committee did have a fuller report on this, and it was clear that we were moving into a better position in terms of the more recent batch And there's been some sort of really proactive work done on the way that we're branding and communicating, and even, you know, recognising that the application process itself technically needs improving, because that could have been putting people off. So I think a bit of a root and branch piece of work, which hopefully we're starting to see, but this has always got a lag in it in terms of the performance data that we're seeing today. I think the subscribers to residents email is something where to see us meet that target, we need a sort of step change in approach, and I think that's something potentially for the new council to sort of consider. What you might have seen when you go onto another council's website or a commercial site is that basically you can't really get through the homepage without signing up and giving your email. And some other neighbouring councils do that, but then it also, you probably have experienced that's quite off-putting and can sometimes sort of make you feel a bit annoyed with the site having to kind of give you details to get through, really. But that's how you really boost your subscribers, which anybody, you know, with marketing experience would know. So I think that's something we need to revisit in order to get to the 14%.
But if you don't do that, if you don't put like the landing page with the subscriber information, I think that is probably an unrealistic target, because it relies heavily on people being engaged enough to subscribe. And I think, judging by it, 8.6% seems pretty much your level of people who are engaged enough to engage with the council's emails. But obviously, that's again, that's what I think target wise. If that doesn't happen, then we'll probably have to revise that.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor Alvey.
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to ask about the necessity to provide photo ID for elections, and wonder what response we have had to the information we've put out already. The need for this. I mean, are there a lot of people who are going to have help for this, or is it going to be a small? Can you give us any figures on that?
I haven't brought the figure to hand for the latest issuing of the authentication certificates, which are the alternative to ID. But we are really geared up across our information offices to provide additional support for people who need to go through that process, because it's an online process, so we can sort of work and support people to do that. The last figures, just to give you a sense of scale, it was under 100 last time who'd applied, so I don't imagine it's suddenly rocketed. So what we are continuing to do is to step up, keep communicating, and you know, making sure that it's both supporting the government's wider campaign around voter ID, but also targeted into areas that we know are potentially going to sort of have less traditional ID available.
Well, Councillor Kangarani first, because he hasn't.
I would love you to elaborate on hybrid working, because as far as I can see, it has got lots of consequences, local economy to well-being, and knowledge transfer. How that is being taken into account when this process has been implemented?
Yes, and I think the uptake on hybrid working has been very well. It adds to our employer of choice. I think it's a staff are really enjoying it, because and so many other companies offer it. It's just something that we need to offer our staff. Really do need to offer our staff. Working has changed since the wonderful COVID. I don't know anything that COVID hasn't touched, and this is just a byproduct of that. It's more efficient use of the building. It's more efficient use of parking. It's more efficient use of staff time. It's again answers some of the green eco qualities, where people aren't in their cars all the time. They can actually work from home, saving them the cost of petrol, etc. So I think it's a win-win situation, quite honestly.
How do you differentiate between that and flexible working hours? Because it's a new name for it, I suppose, hybrid.
Can I just step in there? First of all, we have a mix here. We have quite a strong mix of in as well as out, although we are offering facility to people from work from home, we still have a core time within here to work. So we still have quite a high, which I think is very important, because I think the social mix with working with your team is very important, above and beyond simply the fact that you can work in isolation. It's not good. I think we've proved it's not good for mental health. I think it's important that the teams come together and they come in, and we are very strong on that. And indeed, we've been praised by that from people coming in from outside who have been very much restricted, where other organisations have looked at this as a huge cost-saving exercise, where they could drop down their building space, their workspace considerably, and have actually restricted number of hours that people can work from the office. So I think we've done very well with that, and I think it's a good mix. And as I say, we're getting praise from other people coming from other organisations who say that actually that is one of the reasons for making us an employer of choice. As far as the working time, flexible working time, we've always operated on that where we can. Obviously, there are some services that you can't operate flexible working time. You know, CCTV, call in when you like. Let's hope we haven't got everybody one day and nobody another. But we do have core hours in which we do expect our staff to be working, because obviously that is essential so that people can see it, and they are the midday sort of range where we have core hours. So there are two completely separate things, because even if you are working flexibly from working from home, you are still expected to cover your core hours so that the public can access you at a sensible time.
Okay, just to follow up, as a consequence of the hybrid working, do we have building which is not going to occupy part of the building at all?
Accommodation is something that we will, in the new administration, look at so that we can make full potential use of the building.
Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, on the issue of voter ID, just going back to that, because that's one of the things that I think the council have been most visible with recently, and actually the communication strategy there has been really good. And I think the TF Red Brown and Rebecca Donovan and the team have been fantastic at that. Obviously, in terms of take up, that's a big amount of bureaucracy the council have to deal with. What's the current situation with regards to the polling stations? Because I know, were we hiring people to check? I just wasn't sure. Are we hiring people to check ID on the polling stations with that?
Well, we employ resources that we need to deliver an election as we normally would. So we are increasing the amount of poll clerks so that the anticipated conversations we may need to have with some people as they come to vote, as well as having communications there. Visually, we're going to have kind of here to help staff who will be able to have those conversations. We did receive some additional funding from government for in effect the new burden of that legislation. So you know, in terms of the preparation and the time that's been taken, I don't know if we'd say it's covered. I don't think we've sort of had the wash up yet of all of the costs, but we're regardless of that, it's really important to us that the elections are delivered with as maximum engagement possible. So we're working across the whole council to use our resources to deliver them safely and kind of with the maximum participation.
Could I just add, with that happened yesterday, in fact, the forms that are sent out about you vote at that station.
Yeah.
If you turn it over, the whole of the back is a long list of have this, have that for the identification. So I think with that and what the council's doing and at the polling stations, there's ultimately a limit to what you can do, but we're maximising every effort to get it sorted. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So good.
Anyone else? I've just got a question here. How do we measure the productivity of staff who are working from home? How do we ensure that the productivity levels are kept up? And I don't know if you answer that.
Have a go. It's a hard question. In a lot of areas, unlike manufacturing, a lot of our work is around professional expertise and progressing with projects, pieces of work, collaboration, and so on. So I think it's a challenge whether you're working at home or in a building, to be really clear how you're managing performance. I think that's why we have clear priorities. That's why we have performance targets and annual reviews. But to me, we need to sort of become and equip our managers to be more confident managing on outcomes and what their task is, as opposed to you're sat in Apple Tree Court for 7 hours or you're sat at home for 7 hours.
Or on the beach in San Francisco.
We don't allow people to work from abroad for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is. I think it's a challenge for managers in the future. I think we've got clear priorities, service plans, targets, and all of the usual sort of one-to-ones, etc. They apply for hybrid working as much as if you're in the building.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got one more question, if I may, which is on the high risk areas at the bottom of the chart there, and I noticed that one of them is potential impacts on the level of winter energy resilience, and I assume that this was brought in because of the shortage of gas due to the Ukrainian war and reliance on partially in Europe on gas from Russia. And I think now the situation has eased a bit, but we're all experiencing much higher prices for our energy, and I'm glad to see that is on there. I'm sorry it's on there, but I'm glad to see we picked up on it. And my fear is that this is going to get worse, particularly as we become more reliant on electricity, and it's a big problem. And I don't know what the answer is, but it does say here that we have backup power options being investigated. And I just wondered what those were and how we can obviously get around the problem.
I might ask Alan to comment on that. That's okay from a facilities point of view.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, we have got backup power here specifically for Apple Tree Court. So it's time limited, but we do have a separate generator here that can, in the event of a power outage, provide us with enough power to basically see us through for a period of time and provide the resilience we need for basically a safe shutdown. What it wouldn't do is allow us to have heating, lighting technology throughout the whole of the building. That's just completely out. So we have got the emergency power.
So we're covered in Apple Tree Court, but of course the wider district is not, and it is an issue that is going, not only this district, the whole of the country is going to have to grapple with, as we now know that we are utterly reliant on gas, and it's a great pity that the country as a whole does not explore and use its own facilities when it's got huge, vast resources of gas. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
I don't think that's quite in New Forest District Council's remit.
Well, it's certainly an issue that's affecting this area amongst others. Right, so move on to, thank you, Jill, on to our second portfolio holder, which is Councillor Jeremy Herron.
Thank you very much. I suppose I better start with the two red ones on my quite glaringly obvious that people notice them first. One day we will end up spot on budget, absolutely to the penny, and it'll be a complete fluke and nothing to do, although I will claim credit for it, will be nothing to do with the fact. The simple fact of the matter is that when we set a budget 12 months in advance, the world changes, as everybody has seen so many times recently. COVID, war, we are seeing more extremes. The variance is not where I'd like it. I was much happier in February Cabinet when the General Fund was looking to come in at 21,539 against its original budget of just over 20, so 26.74. So I was much happier then, but unfortunately, one of the things that you do find as you get very close to the year end is obviously management are now looking at things, what the projects they're going to deliver, the expenditure they're going to do, and there is always a bit of a flurry at the end. As hard as many times as you say, please, could I have early warning of any variation, it not necessarily coming through the system. So although they are not anywhere near where we are, I suspect that since this dashboard has been created, there have been some changes even now coming forward as we head towards the year end. I'm hoping they'll be in the right direction and that we will end closer to our original expectation on that. I'll now go down to our high risk areas, and as you will see, most of our high risk areas are in things that are beyond our own control, but which obviously impact within the organisation. We must be very much aware of them, monitor them, and have opportunities to offset those issues as they do. But very often things like the top one, the comprehensive spending review, is not something that we can do. We have plans to mitigate that if should it come forward, but it will not be good news, and it will be something that we will have to accept. So on that, I would like to turn now to it's quite interesting today. We've had two areas of my portfolio coming forward that perhaps you wouldn't really expect if you were the public. When I say that I'm finance, people think of the money in the ins and the outs. They don't think of the first one, which our res and benefits team, who work unbelievably hard. I think everyone living in the district has had a nice letter, I hope, from us, saying how important it is that you give us the money that we can continue to go forward. So, you know, it is a very dedicated team that we manage very well and delivers exceptionally well. And as demonstrated by something, they get so much more added into that team's work, and it's not necessarily planned or scheduled. It's as the world changes in the government, and they manage to absorb that within their usual. I'm very proud of that team for that. The other team, obviously, we had in today, I want to mention, is our ICT. Again, not one that people see particularly. I mean, they do if they use the website, but actually crucial to the management of this organisation, and the changes that I think any councillors have been on here for some time, certainly more than one term, will be well aware of the leap forward we've made with that and the delivery that it does and how it impacted on our thing. And I'm just very proud of it, and I just had to add that in on the end of my portfolio. Happy to take any questions if any members have got them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jack Davis.
I mean,
I didn't mean it. No, I didn't mean it when I said that. I just what you said.
I will always speak. I was actually going to say, I thought you were happy, and I can understand why, because in terms of the stuff you're in charge of, I think the council are doing quite well. Obviously, inflation's a massive issue with regards to...
And energy costs are going to be something that's impacted on us.
Now, in terms of forecast, it's very difficult to get your crystal ball out, but have you had any word from the government on finance settlement?
We were supposed to have a multi-year settlement this year, and indeed it was said that it was a multi-year settlement, but then when they actually wrote the bit that says this is set in stone, they seem to miss out that section somehow. So we are still on a one-year settlement. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, they may well say that it was a two-year settlement. They'll claim it whilst making changes, but those changes weren't included within it. We know we do live very much on a year-to-year settlement. They were reasonably early with their confirming it this year, which was nice, because they have been later than that, and it obviously does make budget setting very difficult. No.
Would you assume with the general election coming next year at some point that we're not going to get anything until after that in terms of whether we're going to have a multi-year settlement or not? I assume it's kind of a wait and see until whatever happens.
With the variations in global finance and the difficulties that people are seeing in various areas of their own, I would be very surprised to see anything hard and firm coming forward, unfortunately, and we will have to face and deal with what we have. But we've done that the whole time I've been on the council, and we will continue to deliver for our residents in the best way that we can. But yeah, no, it would be love. I don't know whether I'd love it, actually. I mean, I kind of look forward to it, but only if it's on a good year. They say that it's going to be a multi-year settlement.
If I could just offer that, the latest thinking and assumptions from the LGA is that there's very unlikely to be a comprehensive spending review before the election, and that the first year it's likely to take impact would be the 26-27 financial year at the earliest, and that aligns to what we've got in our MTFB.
Thanks. Councillor Kangarani.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the high risk area, lack of suitable commercial property.
Well, obviously, as you are aware, we have a commercial property portfolio that we buy and look to deliver, generate income for the council. At this time, there is not a lot. Our restrictions, and I think quite rightly, that the policy is that we only buy within our district. We're not looking to buy, as someone did an opticians in Glasgow or something. I think one of the councils did. We're not looking to do that. So we are restricted, rightly, I think, that we operate within our own district. But that's because our policy is not simply an investment policy to generate, but it's also to support and enhance business within the area. So it's very important that we deliver on both of those fronts. At the moment, it's a little bit stagnant in what's coming to market. Principally, I think, because of the changes in the interest rates and how people are seeing that. And again, those changes in interest rates benefit us when we've got money on deposit, and we have. So that's a good news. So there's a good news, bad news story there. I'm not taking forward the development, but part of it was because our interest on our money that we held was very poor. I've woken up Councillor Alvey now.
Just you mentioned that obviously we want to generate income for the council.
Yeah.
I did read that during the last meeting that the building in Totton at Junction Road has been empty. I think we purchased that was 6-7 months ago. As far as I can tell, that has not been occupied.
This is the bottom one in the housing block that we bought.
Yeah, housing block.
Yeah, we bought the housing. We bought the housing block, and we took the building below in as part of our asset because it tied up and meant that we owned the whole block, which was sensible for future investment. I haven't had an update yet. At one stage, housing were looking to consider using that for themselves, and that was one of the possibilities. I don't know where that's got to.
But obviously, there are several flats in there, obviously.
Yes.
And also a shop.
Well, it wasn't going to be a shop. At one stage, it was going to be an outpost for housing. I can't remember exactly what they wanted to use it for.
Could you give us an update at the next meeting?
I think actually
there was a consideration, but actually we have had some good discussions. I think somebody was interested in taking on as a barber shop, but obviously it's not been seen over the line yet. And that's the thing, when it's a new build, a new opportunity, you are relying on somebody taking a bit of a punt in terms of moving in. So, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously, hadn't been advertised either. I haven't seen the listing anywhere saying that shop is available, and nothing on the window saying that. I think I'm sorry to say that, but your reputation in renting premises is not very quick. We had one in Totton that it was empty for nearly 2 years and eventually got let out. Above the shop, there are several flats. We know there's shortage of accommodation. Why those flats have not been rented out? Or, I don't know. I mean, obviously, update us on that, please.
Yeah, my understanding was the flats are all in use. So if that's not the case, then I'll confirm that with housing colleagues. But my understanding is they're all in use.
There is one curtain in one of the rooms. I think it's like an old curtain. I think that is, because I pass that area often, and I can't see any activities in that.
Well, of course, that part isn't within my portfolio. That's within the housing portfolio. The shop is, and I will chase up on where we're going with that. As I say, for some time it was held over from being advertised because there was a possibility of an in-house use for it.
Yeah.
And we were waiting to hear back as to whether that was. Now it sounds to me like we've decided that we're not going to. We don't have a requirement for it, and yes, it will go out and be marketed again. Small shops right at this moment, possibly not. I mean, I'll be absolutely honest, out of choice for investment properties, as I say, there's more than one angle to why we own commercial property. As far as a commercial property to make a return, it will make a return. I'm comfortable with that, but it wouldn't have been my first choice of purchase, except for the fact that it ensured that we own the whole block and gave future proofing and abilities to adapt in the future, which is again a great advantage to this council. But we will look at the marketing on that and see how we're doing. I mean, obviously, we're a very small, select and perfectly formed team. And at the moment, we're just finishing off the industrial estate in Ringwood. And obviously, our focus mainly is on the marketing of that. That's a significant project for many millions of pounds invested. And obviously, where our target is to get that up and out and onto the market. We're doing exceptionally well on that one. And we have a lot of interest in it and several people waiting to sign when it actually the handover comes through. So that's where our focus is. And as I say, we are a small team, but I will pull that one up and see where it is going.
Thank you.
Can I ask Councillor Alvey then? You had a point.
Yeah, thank you. It's a question on the Hardley depot where we say delays in the delivery has a high impact. I just want to be reassured that, say that it was delayed by 2 years, I mean, we can continue to use our existing.
We own our existing facilities that it will take over from, so there is no restriction on that, other than the fact, obviously, it's not in the best position given the residential. And although the leader has moved on from a housing portfolio, up until that point, she was desperate to get hold of that land and put houses on it. So I mean, there is, but it is again a significant investment by this council. It is important that we got it right. I think that the first sort of plans did not look quite enough into the future and the possible changes within the waste stream that obviously we are now seeing coming forward. And so it was required that we had to go back and do a little bit more work on that to make sure that the money that we were investing was wise and looking for the future. It's now, I think, on track and going forward, and will hopefully come to fruition.
Yes.
So, but as I say, no risk because we own the other site.
That's what I was
concerned
about. Yeah. Okay. You haven't already sold it to housing, is what I know.
No, I refuse to. They're very mean to me, but I still refuse to.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Davies, yeah.
I just wanted to kind of congratulate you on one thing, because I was knocking doors somewhere in New Milton the other day, and it was one of the comments that was raised was about the high street in New Milton, and there were issues with regards to investment and stuff like that. But one of the big plus points that was raised was Marks and Spencer.
Indeed.
And they were the residents there were very happy that was there, and they really wanted to keep it.
I deliberately went down there and checked it out at Christmas. I felt it was my duty as portfolio to go and make sure that it was functioning well. And it is very popular, and it does. It's nice to see the high street reinvigorated. I mean, that shop had been empty for some time, and just that lump in the middle of the high street, on any high street. And as I say, I hope that as we go forward in the top and regeneration. But no, it really does impact on how people see a high street. And to see that back and so busy, I mean, it was at Christmas, manic, wasn't it? I'm delighted with it. I hope we can do more of that across the district and support our high streets. I really do. Thank you.
I'll just add to that. The fact that the manager's name is Keith has got nothing to do with it. But I do know that in 1 week they saw 20,000 customers.
It's very good.
It's made a huge change to the high street.
It does. The footfall on the whole high street it's just uplifted at that point, and it's got to be good for the area, hasn't it?
Quick one, Councillor.
Yeah, just a quick one. Who's responsible for town centre regeneration at the moment?
Sorry?
Town centre regeneration.
Who's responsible?
Who is responsible? That's a mixed bag. I think that partially will fall under the leader, because this is going to be some significant things. But I mean, planning will obviously take a lead role in it. Finance will take a role in it. It is. I think it's something that embraces the whole of the council to achieve a meaningful delivery on that. So,
do we have kind of a team person or anybody assigned to?
I think that ultimately that will fall to the leader and the chief executive, given the fact that it is such a significant project for this council, and it will roll across councils, because of course we would like to work with the other councils like Hampshire County Council. Exactly, very important part of it. Obviously our street scenes will be involved in it. It is a fairly new venture, I think, for this council. We have always done small parts of environmental improvements, but we've never actually committed, as we are in this case, to working around the district and looking to see how the world's change and the impact on our high streets and our major areas can be addressed, and we can go forward. So it will be a learning curve, I think.
Well, I think so, because obviously Tottenham has been elected for a long time, and it is a well-known fact, I think. And we promised that going to be looked at urgency. I think it's top of the list at the moment.
It is indeed, and indeed
And
we have put
obviously-
funding towards it.
Yeah, we had the Claire Upton Brown looking after that town centre regeneration, but she has left now. And we haven't heard the vibe or didn't get the information that how it's going to be progress from now on. Just urgency.
Okay,
Chairman, I think. Is it helpful if I just explain?
Please do, yes.
Just the leadership structure. So I think yeah, the leadership changes have been communicated to all members, and we now have a strategic director who I think is well placed in that role because it covers place and operations and sustainability. So actually bringing not just the planning and regen place shaping side, but actually some of those environmental improvements and so on.
Who's the?
So that's James Carpenter, who's started on Monday. And then underneath him, there will be an assistant director for place development, which basically will be planning, regeneration and economic growth. That's a vacancy. And we are, now James started on Monday, we'll be taking forwards the permanent recruitment into that role. And then underneath that, there are other teams like Sally's team working closely on town centres, high streets, economic development. But that broader sort of direction for place will sit at the strategic level and the assistant director level, which is probably you'd see maybe as more of a replacement for Claire.
Yeah, that's fine. Just one more minor point is the high street tidiness. Again, in Tottenham, we are suffering from lack of tidiness because the rubbish is everywhere. Weeds are growing out. Obviously, nobody looking after the place, even minor things. Why is that? Just why is that happening?
Do you think it's the world? I mean, when I was a child, if you walked down Ringwood High Street at 7 o'clock in the morning, every single shopkeeper would be outside with a brush, sweeping it up. They didn't say the council hadn't done it or where's the people who are doing it. We have limited resources, and I'm a keen supporter of encouraging the local people to take pride in their place. Now, that might want some help and some resources put in to kickstart it, and I'd be delighted, I think, to sort of support anything like that. But at the end of the day, I really am a keen supporter of local people taking pride in their place.
It's very difficult for me, in front of my shop, go and get it and start picking litter from the middle of the road or walking in the...
I do. Every time I walk past my premises, if there's rubbish on the pavement, I pick it up and bring it in and put it in the bin.
I would imagine council tax was slightly less back then.
I would suspect it was, but then I suspect labour costs were slightly less back then.
Councillor Cleary would like to just make a point.
You have a wonderful opportunity with the King's coronation on the Monday. I believe they would like to see councillors do and general public do events that concern the local community. Perhaps you could arrange a small litter pick.
Well, we have got this team Tottenham, they go around occasionally and pick stuff. That's been looked after by the volunteers. But for me, it's just passing the buck. It is not going to help because I think we have done in the past. Now we are not doing it anymore. And the public doesn't know that the council is not responsible for it anymore. And I think that maybe
I don't think this should be. Yeah, that's not anymore.
I think we should move on now. We've had a long discussion on this one, unless there's something really novel or new.
I was just going to say, well, it's up to the councillors to get hold of our wonderful streets team, and they will sort it.
Okay, so now we come to our last portfolio holder, and that's Councillor Michael Harris. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Michael Harris, portfolio holder for business, tourism and high streets. Very conscious of the time, so I'll go through a very brief report, and then obviously that won't leave any time for questions, so that'll be good. It'll be that fun. So following on from the example set by my cabinet colleague, where he said, let's look at the red items in the portfolio first of all. I thought I'd do my red items. Oh, there aren't any. They're all green. That's excellent. So highlights for my portfolio that I'd like to share with you. We've relaunched our Shop Doctor programme. We did it last year very successfully, and we're doing it again this year. We've already had 78 participants sign up, and indeed many of them have been visited. So it's taking place in 6 high streets across the New Forest: Hythe, New Milton, Barton, Milford-on-Sea, Brockenhurst and Lyndhurst. It's been fascinating talking to one or two people who keep approaching me and saying, I haven't had my mystery shop around yet. And I say the clue is in the word mystery. Just try and that thought. Anyway, and indeed, I believe a date's been put in the diary for the feedback, because someone was saying to me, I've not had my mystery shopper yet, and I'm being invited to a feedback event. I think, well, then that's because you've had your mystery shopper, and it was a mystery. So that I'm pleased with that. That's a good project. NFDC startup support, business startup support. We have been working with IncuHive, who I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, and they are helping people who want to start up their own businesses and make a difference to their lives. Over 30 New Forest businesses or residents have signed up to get one-to-one support. So they sit down with an expert to talk about what it is they want to do. So that's a good boost to businesses. And then talking of boosting, we have the Business Boost programme, which we're doing jointly with the Isle of Wight Council, and this is European money, the last of, I would suspect, ERDF, European Regional Development Fund monies. 20 New Forest businesses have signed up. The first cohort of 13 are taking place. This is a project we're doing with the University of Portsmouth Business School, and so first cohort was say 13, and the second cohort will be taking place in April. And then we have talked earlier about young people and recruitment and so on. We've got a careers event coming up in May, and I'm afraid I don't yet have the details of where this is taking place. I suspect it's in Southampton, because we're working with Southampton City Council and Solent University, and so there will be an event for pupils to come in, for school children who are thinking about their careers, to come in and meet with businesses who equally are looking to recruit people. I mean, the NFDC team will be there. The HR team will be present to talk about New Forest District Council and what job opportunities there are with us. So that's a good event coming up. And then lastly, I'll mention, actually no, second to last, I'll mention Film New Forest ongoing. And at the moment, it looks like the total for the current year 22-23 is £238,000 of production spend in the New Forest. So this is, it's like setting up another business to come and spend money within the New Forest economy, but without having to build a factory or rent space or whatever. So that's a good project. And then lastly, I'd like to just mention the New Forest Enterprise Centre, not under my portfolio per se, but I was appointed as a director of the New Forest Enterprise Centre, which is in Topham. And it's a fantastic business enterprise. It in itself, it is providing valuable space to many New Forest businesses. There must be 50 or 60 businesses there that are renting office space, and many of them are startups. Quite a few of them are established. It's something that, we own the building, or we own the land. Alan knows more about the specific financial details of it, but it's an enterprise that we have a vested interest in, not least because it provides us with an income, but it also is helping New Forest businesses. It just occurs to me that this committee hasn't met with any representatives of the Enterprise Centre for quite some time. I think when I was chairing the committee many moons ago, we had them in, but I think it would be very beneficial to meet with the chairman and the chief and the lady who runs it, the chief executive, at this committee. I think it would be very valuable for both parties. Chairman, that concludes everything I'd like to say this morning. I'm very conscious of late time, so it's been lovely meeting you, and enjoy lunch. Oh, questions?
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Davis.
Yeah, obviously good to see some green on the KPIs, but there aren't many KPIs. And I was wondering, it's obviously not directly in your control, but something that you can help with and would actually probably help your portfolio. In terms of business births and deaths, that's something that I think should be noted in the KPIs, because that would give us an idea of, because you mentioned startups and there's a lot of good work going on with startups, but obviously with the looming recession, the likely it is, we're probably gonna have to switch more to business retention support rather than business startup support, because business startups will dry up anyway as the recession happens. So business births and deaths, having that KPI there, I think would be really useful, because then we'd be able to know whereabouts we're looking with regards to whether we need to actually look into switching our support towards more retention than startup.
I'll make inquiries. We can get those figures nationally. I'm not sure whether we can get them specifically for the New Forest.
I think you can. I'm not 100% certain, but I think you might be able to.
I would also worry about business deaths, quite what you mean by that, because if we're looking at Companies House data, we say, okay, how many businesses have been closed down? I'm involved with lots of businesses myself, on behalf of clients, and starting a limited company can be done very easy. You might start a limited company for a particular project, and then when that project's over, you close that limited company. Is that a death? Is that, statistically, you're saying a company is shut? So are we then saying, oh dear, that company's shut, it's therefore gone bust? No, it ended its life because its purpose was no longer required. So
I would consider the overall pattern to be more useful rather than the individual numbers on that front. That's why birth and death would be interesting to see.
I will make the inquiry. We'll find out.
But in terms of the actual support we provide, I do think business retention is probably going to be something that we will have to focus on as the economic situation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kangarani, your point?
Yeah, just take a small question about high risk area regarding the insufficient skilled labour for us. I know you have been talking to people. I mean, I know how difficult it is to recruit skilled people because I've been looking for people. I can't find anybody to recruit. The question is really, you have to look at it holistically. When we give a sort of planning permission to develop retirement apartments, we basically running out of bringing new people, new blood into the area to create the skill we need. I think the approach might have to be bigger, wider sort of approach than how we can bring the skill in by bringing young people into the area rather than building a retirement home, for example. That is not going to work, you know that. What is a solid plan? Talking to people is fine, but really how are we going to address that? It's not easy, I know that, but can we just have some mind on that?
Well, we are clearly doing what we can. There are, this is a non-statutory function that we are performing. So it's not something we have to do by law, but we are doing and have always done it as a council. Having said that, we're talking about 4 members of staff and a budget of £250,000. There's a limit to what you can do with that. And indeed, since I've taken over this portfolio, I've not had, actually that's not true, I've had 3 months where I had a full team of staff. We've always had 1 vacancy. I think we filled the last post at the moment, so we're waiting for that person to join. So actually, you've got a limited amount of resource to do what we're doing. So we're trying to do what we can where we can. The sort of thing you're talking about is huge. Yeah. I mean, really, that's national government, if not county. But we're doing what we can.
Okay.
I mean, Councillor House is correct. The issue goes from the sort of national through to the very local, and we've got different roles in terms of our functions. You're right. The local plan, is something that we take forwards and sets the framework for the long-term 25 years future vision and plan for the district. So, I know members have had some initial conversations about issues, that they feel are there, and after the elections, that's something. When we hear what the outcome of the government's consultation is on the future of plans, that's something that we'll then be able to pick up at that strategic level. I just wanted to say, the team sort of do work really hard. We're bringing in somebody who's got an employment and skills background, and I think that will be an additional sort of complementary sort of background to work with partners, because we can't deliver that. You know, it's not for us to deliver ourselves. We need to put the time and capacity into working with colleges and schools and partners across the Solent who are looking at the same issue.
Thank you very much. Quick one.
Yeah, just a quick one on the skills stuff. With regards to the Freeport, obviously that's coming at some point, depending on government stuff. Will we be doing, and you say working with partners, will we be working with partners to provide skills training for local residents rather than just relying on people coming in?
I can't say we'll definitely be providing skills training. I don't think that would probably be our role, but we will as a district. But we are working with the Solent Freeport to influence their strategy on skills, so that they have got a waterside skills forum, which we have lobbied to ensure that both of our colleges have a place on at the moment. They're waiting for, they've got a new chief executive who's been appointed starting in a few months. Then we absolutely, you know, will be working to try and exert every influence to make sure that adequate and appropriate skills is delivered across the side and in the waterside.
Preferably in the rest of the forest as well. Thank you very much.
But
I would. That's my worry, is that we're going. It's about enticing people in rather than keeping people in, and I want us to see and be an active council in that, because a lot of young people grow up in the forest and move away, and we don't want that to happen. And I think the Freeport danger with the Freeport is that it's limited to just the waterside, and actually you'll be able to. Limited and Pennington, Ringwood, Fordingbridge, they all need those sort of upskilling of the local population, because there's still a lot of local population in their 40s, 50s and early 60s who used to work in manufacturing, perhaps, haven't done it for a long time because we've lost that. All they need is just to have a rejig, and they might be able to go into local manufacturing jobs. So it's stuff that I'd like to see the local council do a bit more.
Thank you very much.
Can I just come in on that, Jack? With the Waterside Steering Group, we are very aware of that, and we have been having long talks about upskilling what we currently have, because I believe it will also lead to more income coming into that household. It will lead to a better life standard, better life change. So upskilling, believe me, is high on the agenda. It's not. We call it the waterside, but it's not just the waterside. It is through the district.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say that part of the thing was that we included the whole of the district within the area, which ensures that the investment can go wider than simply that. I mean, something that the National Park got a little bit twitchy about, seeming to think that we were going to put some sort of port on the middle of Stony Cross or something, which would have been a challenge in its own right. But it wasn't. It was to ensure that our investment.
What I was looking at.
I just wanted to correct what is the reason why I placed the stress on in the water skills training delivered in the waterside is more as opposed to it being in Southampton or further away, which often for the more kind of advanced skills provision, that's tended to be where people have to go. So I think we're working for it to come across into the New Forest, and clearly would be available.
So that's why I think the retained business rates, and part of that pool is for to meet the core objectives of the Freeport. So that would be something that we could say, okay, well, let's provide some skills funding. We can pay for it through that, and that's why I want to see out the whole of. But that's all. Yeah, that's reassuring.
If I may, finally, I just think what Kate has said earlier. It's all about identifying institutions, training operators, whatever, that can provide the training required. We're not into the game of paying to 500 engineers to arrive and be trained by the district council in whatever it may be. It's more to do with facilitating the opportunity. People that come in the area, people already in the area, go to these organisations and be trained and developed to meet the needs of the Solent area.
Thank you.
That's where we are.
Thank you very much. Well, I think we've had a good discussion on that. So thank you very much, Michael, for your portfolio. And next item is item 8, work programme, on pages 41, 43, I think. Right, I think that we have a new council coming, of course, in a few weeks' time, so no doubt the new committee will want to refresh this and have a look at it, but we've got quite a lot of items on here. Anybody want to make any points on it?
I'd just like to make one point that
Yes.
all through this, the lead officer is mentioned as Claire Upton Brown.
The chair will be updated.
Not
Apologies.
right.
Yeah, we'll update it.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, that's a very good point. Will be done.
Good.
Chairman, could I just put a plea in again for the New Forest Enterprise Centre to be
To add that, yes, can we do that?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah.
Put that on. Okay. Item 9, urgent items. I don't have any, so I declare the meeting closed.
I'd like to just take it up.